Good morning, everyone, and welcome to All Souls Church. My name is Ross Edwards, and I'm this week's service assistant.
And I'm Reverend Joanna Lubkin, minister of All Souls Church. We extend a special welcome this morning to our neighbors joining us from First Church in Jamaica Plain, where those of you from there know me as the Communications and Digital Ministry Associate. We look forward to joining you for a service later in May.
A few etiquette things with Zoom. We keep everyone on mute for the service except for our time of sharing joys and concerns.
If you're new to All Souls Church, please take a moment to click on the link in the order of service and the chat for our connection card so we can stay in touch.
It's up to you if you want to turn your camera on and be seen. We do record the service, although joys and concerns shared will not be in the final recording.
Please feel free to chat in the chat box or to ignore it.
During the service, please feel free to get up, move around, or take a break from the screen as you need, but try to be as present as possible and imagine we are all in the same room together.
And finally, remember that when you are invited to sing or to pray, to share or to chat, how you participate or don't is up to you.
After church, we have some time to say hello in breakout rooms.
Now, hear these words of welcome.
All who enter in the spirit of curiosity, love, and justice are welcome this morning.
Welcome to people who love God, people who don't believe in God, and people who live in the not knowing.
People who find a higher purpose deep inside, people who find it in relationship with one another, and people who find it in the interdependence of all existence.
And all the people in between.
Whoever you are, whatever your gifts or abilities may be, however you identify your gender or sexual orientation, wherever your life and faith journey has taken you, you are welcome here.
Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you understand the sacred, you bless us with your presence.
We light our flaming chalice with words from the New Union Haggadah. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And we follow the All Souls tradition of lighting a green candle, symbolic of our commitment to being a green sanctuary congregation. May both these flames call us to kinship with and great care for the earth and her living creatures. As we center our hearts, let's sing our chalice song for March, Rejoice in Love.
Rejoice in love we know and share, in love and beauty everywhere. Rejoice in truth that makes us free, and in the good that yet shall be. Rejoice in love we know and share, in love and beauty everywhere. Rejoice in truth that makes us free, and in the good that yet shall be.
This morning, we celebrate the Jewish holiday of Passover, which began last night at sundown. This holiday recounts the story of the Israelites being freed from slavery in Egypt, how they fled the land where they'd been held captive, and then their journey into an unknown promised land. Our opening words are from Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, whose blog is called The Velveteen Rabbi. She begins with words from the book of Exodus and then continues with her own poem called Ready. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders. From Exodus chapter 12, verse 34. You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry, a book, a poem, a battered tin cup, your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot, possessive fist. So the dough isn't ready. So your heart isn't ready. You haven't said goodbye to the places where you hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves you've tended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take the leap at all. And infinity is calling you forth into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise flat cakes without yeast. Learn to read new alphabets. Wear God like a cloak and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going, but you have the words of our sages, the songs of our mothers, the inspiration wrapped in your kneading bowl. Trust what you carry will sustain you as you take the first step out the door. As we gather together this morning, First Church JP and All Souls together on our own journeys, let's sing together our opening hymn, Gathered Here. Beautiful. Thank you, Jacob. As a spiritual community, we journey together through life's ups and downs, and we hold each other in love. We take this time to reflect on our week, to recall the milestones, the joys, the concerns, the sorrows, the changes in our lives, and those in need of healing. If you have a heartfelt milestone, joy, or sorrow from your own life that you'd like to share, you're invited to either share aloud or in the chat. If you'd like to share, you can come off mute by pressing the mute unmute button, usually in the lower left corner of your screen, or by pressing *6 if you're calling in. Please share your name and briefly express what's on your heart. If you're having trouble unmuting, give us a wave and we'll do what we can to help you unmute from this end. After each person shares, I'll drop a stone in water, symbolic of the water gathered and blessed in this year's water ceremony. And finally, please know that this section won't end up in the final recording of the service. What's shared now is kept only here in real time. All of the sorrows, all of the joys that we hold in our hearts. I'll drop one final stone to remember and to rejoice. We center our hearts and lift up those prayers and hopes that we carry with our centering song, Meditation on Breathing. sweet to hear the voices of our choir. I invite you to join me in a time of meditation and prayer, first in words, then in shared sacred silence, and then in melody. Our words of meditation today are from Lynn Cox. Spirit of life and love, known by many names and yet fully known by none, we give thanks for this time and this place of renewal. We give thanks for the opportunity to begin again after the disaster, after the tragedy, after the loss, after meeting the challenge set before us. Grant us the courage to continue on the journey, the courage to speak up for the well-being of others and ourselves and the planet. May we forgive each other when our courage falls short, and may we try again. Grant us hearts to love boldly, to embody our faith and our values in living words and deeds. May our hearts open to embrace humility, grace, and reconciliation. Grant us the ability to learn and grow, to let the spirit of love and truth work its transformation upon us and within us. Grant us the spirit of hospitality, the willingness to sustain a fit dwelling place for the holy that resides in all being. Grant us a sense of being at peace in the world, even as we are in motion. Let us cultivate together the strength to welcome every kind of gift and all manner of ways to be on the journey together. To this, we now add the silent prayers of our hearts. Let us be together in shared silence.
A religious community is like a river formed from the many streams of our lives that meet and merge and flow to the sea. As members and friends of this religious community, we share our time and energy, our creativity, imagination, and vision, our talents, skills, and gifts, and the streams of our individual lives to create a river that is both deep and broad, a river that is made of many streams, sustains life, and refreshes the land through which it flows. But the river of this community also depends on our shared financial support that makes real our shared values and vision. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You can give online at the link in the order of service and in the chat, or you can have a meditative moment of writing out a check later on today and mailing it to the church. You are invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. Thank you.
We want to turn back. They had no idea where they were going. When they left that night in the dark, without lights, without shoes, without bread, their children smothered against them so they would make no noise. They had no idea what they were getting into. Following this Moses, this wild-eyed one who claimed visions and made promises, but who after all could guarantee them nothing except death if they were caught. They had no idea, these slaves, what it could mean, this promise of land, their own country, and life abundant. Of freedom, they knew nothing, except what they could taste by living in its opposite, slavery. And that taste became a hunger, and that hunger became insatiable till they were ravenous for freedom. And they went out then, but no one knows to this day whether they were led by Moses or by the outstretched arm and mighty hand of something else, of something eternal, as they would afterwards and always claim. For whether their own human hungry will made them flee that night from Pharaoh. They went into the wilderness, where they wandered 40 years, which in those days was a lifetime. 40 was a good old age. So many of them died before getting anywhere, and many were born in the desert and grew to adulthood, knowing nothing but the journey, not slavery, not freedom, just the going. They whined and complained and muttered, and some mutinied, for they were stiff-necked and rebellious people. You can read it for yourself. Ungrateful people, even when manna rained down from heaven and quails were sent to feed them. Unhappy people, longing, out loud even, for the familiar security of Egypt, of all places, where at least they knew what to expect. As awful as it was, impatient people making cheap little idols and gods of metal to bargain with in secret when the traveling got hard or merely dull, and the days and years became monotonous. In the springtime, we remember, the promised land is not a destination. It is a way of going. The land beyond the Jordan, that country of freedom and dignity and laughter. You carry it inside you all the while. It is planted in your mind and heart already, before you ever start out, before it even occurs to you that in order to leave that life in Egypt, the intolerable bondage of that life, what you need to do is rise up and travel forward.
The Jewish tradition that I was raised with teaches that when we retell the Passover story, we should tell it as though we ourselves, and not just our ancestors, had been freed from slavery in the land of Egypt. We're asked to put ourselves right in the story, to inhabit its metaphors and its drama, and to relive the journey each year, looking for new truths. Last year, the first Passover in lockdown, it felt easier for me than ever before to put myself right in that story. Just a few weeks into shelter in place from the pandemic, the 10 plagues in the Exodus story felt less metaphorical than usual. what with an actual plague that we hoped would pass by our homes as we kept inside. Grocery shelves were pretty bare, and we had to make do with whatever we could improvise at home for our seders, our ritual meal. It felt very in the spirit of the holiday, recalling how scared Israelites improvised on their journey out of Egypt, leaving so quickly that the dough didn't have time to rise, giving us matzah. The lessons that emerged last year from my Seder table and the tables of loved ones who I connected to through Zoom were about hunkering down, surviving, making do, giving thanks for that which is enough. This year, our second, and please let it be final, pandemic Passover, I invite us to look to the second part of the Exodus story, the journey out. With the coming of spring and warmer weather, for those of us in New England at least, there can be a feeling of liberation. Finally breathing fresh air, it being warm enough to visit safely outdoors with friends again, the joy of seeing new life sprouting forth after winter. As more and more people get vaccinated, there's the liberation from fear for ourselves and for our loved ones. That trips to the grocery store feel safer. A liberation, albeit a slow one, from isolation. That many grandparents can see and hug their grandchildren again. And we hope soon, a liberation that reaches enough of society that we reach herd immunity. But this really all drives home the lesson that none of us are free until all of us are free. Folks from All Souls who heard Lee preach last week, Lee preached that message, and it is worth saying again. One of the reasons that Jews retell the story of the Exodus is to remind us that as long as there are any of us who are enslaved, any of us who are oppressed, none of us are truly free. If we are in the Exodus story now, as we think about the pandemic, maybe we're the Israelites as we finally start to believe that freedom can really be possible. The story goes that after the 10th plague, Pharaoh freed the Israelites from slavery and they fled for their lives. When they reached the shores of the Sea of Reeds, they found that Pharaoh had sent his army after them. The Israelites panicked and cried out to Moses, "Was Egypt lacking in graves that you've brought us out here to the wilderness to die?" But Moses raises his staff, and God splits the sea. The Israelites pass through on dry ground to the other shore, but the sea closes back in over Pharaoh and his chariots, and they perish in the sea. The Israelites were suddenly free. This is the part of the story where I see our lessons emerging this year. Allow me to share 4 teachings that this text offers us. Lesson 1, give thanks. When they reach the other side of the sea, Moses' sister Miriam picks up her timbrel and dances, leading the women in a song of thanksgiving. They weren't out of the woods yet, so to speak. There was still plenty of danger and tribulations ahead of them. But Miriam teaches us to notice and be grateful for the good things that happen. We're not out of the woods yet with this pandemic, but there are so many things to be grateful for. What are the things that you're willing to be grateful for right here and now? Lesson 2, pack a timbrel Someone I studied with at Hebrew College pointed out this incredible detail in the text. Miriam has a timbrel with her, who, when they are fleeing for their lives, makes sure to pack a tambourine. The lesson here is to plan for joy. Even when things are bleak, the future uncertain, and you're just focused on getting to safety, remember that joy will come. Remember that you have the power to create joy for yourself and for others. Lesson 3, make peace with uncertainty. The Israelites are told that they're being led to a promised land, a good land, a land flowing with milk and honey. But to get there, they have to step into the unknown out of everything familiar to them. How will we escape Egypt? How will we cross the sea? What will happen when we reach the other shore? What will this new land be like? Many of us have been weighing similar questions in our own lives. When is it safe to, and when can we, and what will it be like when? And the answer, we just don't know yet. It is so human for us to want to know what's next. But the truth is, we can never really know. We can only take the next right step and then another. And lesson number 4, learn from the journey. People have done the math. It should have taken the Israelites less than a month to walk from Egypt to the promised land of Canaan, what's geographically now Israel. And it took them 40 years. You might have seen the same comics that I have about Moses not stopping to ask for directions. But the rabbis offer a profound teaching on why they wandered for 40 years. And our reading earlier referenced it. 40 years was a whole generation. The Israelites carried their slave mentality with them into the wilderness, and they had to learn a whole new way of being. It took time for them to learn who they were as free people, to shed their previous understandings of who they were in the world and how they were with each other. It took time for them to process what they'd gone through. And the journey itself changed them too. It's one of the lines I love from our offertory, the song by Debbie Friedman. Where does the journey begin? Where will we go? Days pass, the answers can change as we keep moving along. What has changed for you as you've been on your own journey? What are the lessons that you're learning and unlearning? The answers can change as we keep moving along. Beloveds, as we celebrate this festival of freedom, may we find ourselves in this ancient story of liberation. May we heed the reminders that none of us are truly free until all of us are free. All of us need all of us to make it. As we go on our own journeys, let's give thanks for that which is good, even on the hardest days. Pack a tambourine. Plan for joy. Make peace with uncertainty and just do the next right thing. And let's learn from the journey, allowing ourselves to change, grow, and find new answers as we keep moving along. Together, we will reach a good land, a land of peace and plenty, as long as we build it together. So may it be. Let's join in singing together a call to go to that land. Our closing hymn is "Come and Go With Me to That Land."
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Our words of benediction are from Eric Williams. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace. So may it be. And amen. A word about our postlude. The late American Jewish songwriter Debbie Friedman took the story of Miriam and her timbrel and set it to music. A lot of this text is actually pretty close to the biblical story. Fun story about this: as a kid, I had a double CD of Debbie Friedman live at Carnegie Hall, and I would dance around my backyard with my Walkman on to this song. If that didn't give me a clue that I was heading into clergy, I don't know what else would. But I invite you, the lyrics will be on the screen. If you pick up the chorus as we go along, it's a good, fun one to join in singing.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she danced to store thy light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. As Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice with song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long.
Our final sacred ritual is that of announcements. And I want to invite anyone from First Church JP, if you see something that piques your interest, you're more than welcome to come and pop in and join us. It's truly a gift of internet church that we get a chance to connect in this way. First of all, thanks to everyone who helped with this service, to Alicia and Nikki for tech support, Jacob for music, okay, just Alicia for tech support, Nikki for moral support for Alicia, Jacob for the music, Don for the reading, Ross for being our service assistant, Nancy for being Ross's moral support, Mary for being our Zoom usher, all of our First Church friends for joining us, especially those of you who came a full half hour earlier than you usually would to join us. So thank you. We're really glad to have you. Few things upcoming, both this coming week as well as a few things a little later. On Tuesday is our afternoon connection circle. The midday meetup is kind of more informal conversation. And just a heads up that after this week, starting in April, that one will be moving to Monday afternoons. So we'll let you know that again, but just heads up that this is the last Tuesday gathering for that. Wednesday evening, the Sacred Writing Group will be meeting, and you can talk to Alicia, Mary, or Diane if you want to learn more about that. On Friday, our connection circle will be happening for coffee hour, and that one is more of a facilitated discussion. You're welcome to come to both or either, but just we like to let you know kind of what to expect at those. And then next Sunday is Easter Sunday. I bought peeps and everything, so look forward to if you want to wear your Easter bonnet or your most pastel floral finery, that's also encouraged, or just come as you are. It'll be really sweet to celebrate together. And we are also invited on Friday night, I forgot to put it in the slides, but on Friday the 2nd at, I believe, 7 p.m., our neighbors at First Church JP will be hosting a Good Friday service. So if you're curious what a UU observance of a Good Friday Tenebrae service is, spoiler, it's pretty sad, but really moving, you're invited to join for that. I'll ask Maggie to put that in this week's email. So if you'd like the link, you can join. And then two things coming up a little later on. Second Saturday in April, the April 10th, we'll be having our second community conversation, this one on envisioning community care. So whether you came to the first one that we had in March or not, please feel free to come and think with us together about how this community can support our efforts to keep caring for each other, if there's structures we need, or if we have a vision for what we could do together. And then finally, May 9th will be our pulpit swap. So All Souls, be prepared. We'll be joining First Church JP. You'll get an extra half hour of rest because they start at 11. Apologies that it goes in that way. We benefit a little bit from the sleep, but it'll be really sweet to get to join our neighbors. Is there any All Souls related announcement that I missed, or anything that JP folks want to make sure that they name for your announcements? Scrolling through here just to make sure. Great. A word about, oh yes, the Dismantling White Supremacy film series is going to be, the next film is in April. There's a link that John put in the chat. You're welcome. Both churches are warmly welcome to go to the April 10th. Thank you. I made the event on Facebook and I should remember, but I don't. It's going to be really amazing. The film version of a play by Anna Devere Smith on the school to prison pipelines. It's going to be really powerful.